Extraterrestrials named it a phantom vessel. We called it a Homecoming Part 2. The battle had lasted 11 minutes. The greatest fleet in galactic history had been defeated without a single death. Every ship floated helpless in the void, their crews trapped inside metal coffins that would not respond to any command. Rescue ships arrived 2 days later. They found 700 vessels drifting in perfect formation, their crews alive but shaken. The engineers who examined the disabled ships could not explain what had happened. The weapons had not been damaged. They had been changed. Metal had been fused at the atomic level, transformed into something that could never fire again. Admiral Sethrix refused to speak about what she had seen. She resigned her commission and returned to her home world, where she spent the rest of her days staring at the sky. But not everyone had given up. Dr. Illith was a Zen archaeologist aboard the research vessel Quiet Theory. She was small even for her species, with forearms and mandibles that clicked when she was excited. Her specialty was dead civilizations. She studied the ruins they left behind, the artifacts they created, the messages they tried to send to a future they would never see. When the fleet was disabled, the Quiet Theory had been observing from a safe distance. Their sensors had recorded everything, including something that the warships had been too busy to notice. There was a signal, Illith told her colleagues, hidden in the energy pulse that disabled the fleet. The Phantom was not just attacking. It was communicating. Her colleagues were skeptical. A weapon that talks? That seems unlikely. The data does not lie. Illith pulled up her analysis on the laboratory screen. Look at this pattern. It is mathematical, structured. This is not random interference. This is language. She worked for 3 weeks. She barely ate. She barely slept. The signal was unlike anything she had ever seen, but it followed rules. All languages followed rules. She just had to find them. On the 22nd day, she found the key. The structure of the signal matched something she had seen before. Not in any living language, but in the ancient writings found in ruins across the galaxy. Writings that no one had ever been able to fully translate. Writings left behind by a species that had vanished 12,000 years ago. The precursors. Illith's mandibles clicked frantically as she ran the translation program. The signal was short, just a few words. But those words changed everything. We mean no harm. We are looking for our children. She sat in silence for a long time, staring at the screen. The precursors were myth, legend. Every spacefaring species knew the stories. Long ago, before any current civilization existed, a great people had walked among the stars. They had built wonders beyond imagination. Some said they had created life itself, seeding the galaxy with the building blocks that would eventually become every intelligent species. Then they had disappeared. No one knew why. They left behind only ruins and riddles, monuments that crumbled to dust and technology that no one could understand. And now, apparently, they had returned. Illith contacted the Conclave Council immediately. Her message caused panic in the highest levels of government. Emergency sessions were called. Military commanders who had laughed at stories of the precursors suddenly found themselves studying ancient texts. If this translation is correct, said Counselor Viarn of the SRN, then the Phantom vessel is not an enemy. It is a survivor. A survivor of what? Demanded General Korath, the massive reptilian soldier who commanded the Conclave's remaining forces. What could threaten a civilization powerful enough to build something like that? We do not know, admitted Illith, who had been summoned to address the council directly. The precursor records are incomplete, but I have found something else. Something that may explain what the Phantom is searching for. She displayed a map of the galaxy on the council chamber's main screen. Red dots marked every location where the Phantom had appeared. Blue dots marked every known precursor ruin site. The patterns matched perfectly. The Phantom is visiting every place where precursor artifacts have been found, Illith explained. It is following a trail that was laid down 12,000 years ago. A trail leading where? Asked Counselor Vern. Illith hesitated. This was the part that frightened her most. The trajectory suggests a final destination. A small planet in a quiet spiral arm of the galaxy. A world we have observed but never contacted. Why not? Because its inhabitants have not yet developed faster than light travel. By conclave law, they are protected from interference. Illith took a breath. The planet is called Earth. Its dominant species calls themselves humans. Silence fell over the council chamber. Every member knew the laws regarding primitive worlds. Such planets were to be left alone until their inhabitants developed the technology to reach the stars on their own. It was a sacred principle, one of the foundations of conclave society. You are telling us, General Korath said slowly, that an ancient precursor vessel, one that defeated our entire fleet without effort, is heading toward a primitive world full of beings who have never even seen an alien. Yes, Illith said. Why? What could possibly be special about this Earth? Illith looked at the map, at the spiral of red dots that led inexorably toward that small blue planet. The precursors had seeded the galaxy with life. They had created the conditions for intelligence to emerge. And now their ship was searching for something, following a path they had laid down 12,000 years ago. I do not know, she admitted. But I believe the answer to that question will change everything we think we know about ourselves. The council debated for 3 days. In the end, they made a decision that broke their most sacred law. They would go to Earth. They would arrive before the Phantom, and they would find out what made that small, primitive world worth crossing a galaxy to find. Extraterrestrials named it a Phantom vessel. We called it a Homecoming Part 1. The ship came from nowhere. It appeared at the edge of known space like a bad dream, and then it was gone. Sensors caught only shadows. Probes sent to follow it vanished without a trace. For 300 cycles, the great civilizations of the galaxy watched and worried. Admiral Sethrix stood in the war chamber of her flagship, staring at the holographic image floating before her. Her crystalline scales caught the blue light as she studied the shape of the thing they had been hunting for so long. The vessel was massive. It was ancient, and it moved through space in ways that should have been impossible. The Velith hegemony, her people, called it Kathura. It meant the hollow hunger in their tongue. The Zarin, those beings of flowing light and soft bodies, named it the Wound That Moves. But in the official records of the Conclave of Allied Species, it had a simpler name. They called it the Phantom Vessel. Commander Ulith entered the chamber. He was Hassan, and the glowing tendrils along his body flickered with nervous energy. He bowed low before the Admiral. The listening post at Axis 7 is gone, he said. His voice was quiet, almost afraid. Sethrix did not move. Destroyed? We do not know. Our ships arrived to find nothing. No debris, no energy signatures, no bodies. The station simply stopped existing. This was the 48th outpost to vanish. 19 patrol fleets had gone silent. 2 colony worlds had been evacuated in panic when the Phantom appeared nearby, but the vessel had ignored them completely. It passed through those systems as if the millions of lives meant nothing at all. That was what frightened Sethrix most. The Phantom was not attacking randomly. It was searching for something. Every appearance, every jump through space, brought it closer to the galactic core, closer to the home systems of the Conclave, closer to everything she had sworn to protect. Show me the pattern again, she ordered. Ulith touched a panel, and the hologram changed. Points of light appeared across the galaxy map, marking every location where the Phantom had been seen. Lines connected them, forming a path that curved inward like a spiral. It is methodical, Eulith said. Whatever it seeks, it believes it will find the answer near the core. Sethrix studied the spiral. She had fought wars against 3 different species in her long career. She had faced pirates, rebels, and madmen. But she had never faced an enemy she could not understand. The Phantom made no demands. It sent no messages. It simply appeared, did whatever it wished, and left. "The Council has made a decision," she said finally. "We are done waiting. We are done watching. We will find this thing, and we will destroy it." The fleet that gathered at the Dead Star was the largest in 1,000 cycles. 700 warships from 6 different species. 12 dreadnoughts, each one capable of burning a continent. The combined might of every civilization that had joined the conclave. Sethrix stood on the bridge of her command ship, watching the other vessels take their positions. The Zaran cruisers glowed with soft bioluminescence. The Illith carriers hung heavy in the void, their hulls covered in sensor arrays. The Korath battleships bristled with weapons. "We have located the target," reported her navigation officer. "It is stationary near the Dead Star. No movement detected." "Stationary?" Sethrix frowned. In 300 cycles of observation, the Phantom had never stopped moving. "Perhaps it is damaged," Eulith suggested. "Perhaps it has finally exhausted itself." Sethrix did not believe in such luck. "All ships move to engagement range. Weapons free on my command." The fleet advanced. On every bridge, crews prepared for battle. Gunners checked their targeting systems. Engineers stood ready at damage control stations. Soldiers said quiet prayers to whatever gods they believed in. The Phantom vessel waited dotted was even larger up close. The ship was dark, almost black, and its surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange patterns covered its hull, shapes that might have been writing or might have been something else entirely. Sethrix felt a cold sensation in her chest as she looked at it. The ship was old, older than her civilization, older perhaps than any civilization currently alive. "All weapons locked on target," reported her weapons officer. Sethrix took a breath. "Fire." 700 ships opened fire at once. Plasma bolts, kinetic rounds, energy beams, and missiles filled the space between the fleet and the Phantom. The barrage was overwhelming. Nothing could survive such an attack, thought the weapons hit nothing. They'd passed through the space where the Phantom should have been and continued into the void. What happened? Sethrix demanded. Where did it go? It did not go anywhere, Eulith said, his voice filled with horror. It is still there. Our weapons passed through it. And then the Phantom vessel woke up. Lights appeared along its hull, spreading like fire across dry grass. The patterns on its surface began to glow with a pale blue radiance. Sethrix felt the ship beneath her feet shudder as something passed through it. Admiral, we have lost weapons control. Engines are not responding. Communications are down. Across the fleet, every ship reported the same thing. Weapon systems fused solid. Engines locked in place. Every system needed for combat simply stopped working. But life support remained active. Gravity plating continued to function. The lights stayed on. The Phantom had not destroyed them. It had simply turned them off. Sethrix stood frozen on her bridge, watching the ancient vessel through the viewport. It hung there for a long moment, as if considering the fleet that had attacked it. Then, slowly, it began to move again. It passed through the formation of helpless warships without a second glance and continued on its spiral path toward the galactic core. Admiral, Eulith whispered. What do we do? Sethrix had no answer. In her entire career, she had never felt so small. The Conclave had gathered its greatest strength, and the Phantom had brushed it aside like dust. She watched the ancient ship disappear into the distance. And she understood something terrible. They were not hunting the Phantom. They had never been hunting it. They were simply in its way. Extraterrestrials named it a Phantom vessel. We called it a Homecoming Part 3. The Conclave scout ships entered the Sol system expecting to find a primitive world. They expected to see a species still bound to its planet, still struggling with the basic challenges of survival. They expected to observe from a distance, study these humans, and prepare for the Phantom's arrival. They did not expect to be intercepted. The human vessel was ugly by Conclave standards. It was built from metal and ceramic, powered by chemical rockets and primitive fusion drives. It had no elegant curves, no flowing lines. It was a box with engines attached, designed for function rather than beauty, but it was there, waiting for them. Near the largest planet in the system, a gas giant the humans called Jupiter. Unidentified vessels, came a voice over the communication channel. The language was strange, but the Conclave's translation systems adapted quickly. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth defense ship Horizon. You have entered human space. Please state your intentions. The Conclave delegation looked at each other in shock. Humans were not supposed to have ships. Humans were not supposed to be out here. The record said they had barely achieved powered flight a few centuries ago. Ambassador Kess, a Suran diplomat chosen to lead the mission, composed himself and responded. This is Ambassador Kess of the Conclave of Allied Species. We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders about a matter of great importance. There was a pause. Then the human voice returned, and it carried a tone that surprised the ambassador. It was not afraid. It was not even particularly impressed. We know why you are here, Captain Vasquez said. We have been expecting someone to show up eventually. Follow us. We have a lot to talk about. The human ship led them deeper into the system, past the gas giants, past the asteroid belt, past a red planet with strange structures on its surface. Finally, they arrived at a station orbiting a small gray moon. The moon belonged to Earth, their destination, which hung in the distance like a blue and white jewel. Captain Vasquez met them at the docking bay. She was smaller than most Conclave species, with soft skin and dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She walked with confidence, as if meeting alien ambassadors was something she did every day. Welcome to Luna Station, she said. I apologize for the security measures. We have had a lot of time to prepare, but we were not sure who would arrive first. You or them. You know about the Phantom vessel? Ambassador Kess asked. Vasquez smiled. It was a strange expression, one that showed teeth. Among most species, showing teeth was a threat. But humans seemed to use it differently. We call it the home word, she said. And yes, we know about it. We have known for 60 years. She led them through the station to a large conference room. Screens covered the walls, displaying images and data that made the ambassadors' hearts beat faster. He saw pictures of precursor ruins, not from distant worlds, but from the surface of the red planet they had passed. Mars, the humans called it. 60 years ago, our first explorers landed on Mars, Vasquez explained. They were looking for signs of ancient water, evidence of past life. What they found was much more interesting. She pressed a button, and the screens changed. They showed a vast underground chamber, filled with machines and crystals and writing that glowed with soft light. A precursor archive, Kess whispered. Damaged, Vasquez said. Incomplete, but enough to piece together the truth. Enough to tell us who we really are. She turned to face the ambassador directly. Her eyes were steady, unafraid. 12,000 years ago, the precursors faced extinction. Something was coming, a wave of radiation from the galactic core that would sterilize everything in its path. They could not stop it. They could not outrun it. So they made a choice. The screen showed new images. star maps, genetic diagrams, pictures of different worlds with different climates. They seeded the galaxy with their children. Infant colonies, genetic templates designed to survive and evolve on dozens of different worlds. They gave those children everything they needed to grow, to develop, to eventually reach the stars themselves. Vasquez paused, letting the weight of her words settle. Ambassador. The precursors did not just influence human evolution. They did not just guide us from a distance. Humans are precursors. We are their direct descendants, their genetic legacy, adapted over 12,000 years to survive on Earth. Silence filled the room. Ambassador Cass felt his understanding of the universe crumbling around him. The precursors were not some vanished race of gods. They were parents, and their children had been living on a small blue planet, growing and changing and waiting. The homeward, he said slowly. It is searching for you. Not searching, Vasquez corrected. Returning. The archive explained everything. When the radiation wave passed, a ship carrying the last surviving precursors was supposed to return. They put themselves in frozen sleep, riding out the apocalypse in the void between galaxies where the radiation could not reach them. 10,000 survivors, she continued. The last of their kind. They set a course for their children's worlds, programmed to wake them when it was safe to return. She walked to the window that looked out at Earth. They left a beacon on Mars, buried deep where it would survive the centuries. When we found it, it activated. It sent a signal out into the void, telling the homeward that someone was listening, that their children had survived, that they had grown up. Ambassador Cass joined her at the window. He looked at the blue planet, so small and fragile against the blackness of space. And yet, somehow, this insignificant world had been the precursor's greatest hope. Your people know, he said. They know what is coming. Our leaders know, Vasquez said. The general population has been prepared gradually. We have had 60 years to get ready. 60 years to build ships, to train crews, to prepare for a reunion 12,000 years in the making. She turned to face him again. And this time, her smile was different, softer, sadder. The Conclave sees a phantom vessel, a threat to be feared and destroyed. But we look at that ship and we see something else entirely. We see our grandparents coming home. The ambassador did not know what to say. In all his years of diplomacy, he had never encountered a situation like this. The Conclave's entire understanding of history, of the precursors, of their own origins, was about to change forever. The homeward will be here soon, Vasquez said. You can stay and watch if you like. But I should warn you, Ambassador, nothing is going to be the same after today. She was right. Nothing would ever be the same again. Extraterrestrials named it a phantom vessel. We called it a homecoming Part 4. The homeward arrived 3 days later. It emerged from fold space like a mountain rising from the sea, so massive that it blocked out the stars behind it. The Conclave delegation watched from Luna Station, their instruments recording everything while their minds struggled to understand what they were seeing. This was not just a ship. It was a world. The vessel stretched across thousands of kilometers. Its surface was covered with structures that might have been cities, with domes that might have been gardens, with towers that reached toward the void like fingers grasping for something lost. Lights moved across its hull, patterns that seemed almost alive. Captain Vasquez stood at the observation window, her face illuminated by the glow of the ancient ship. Ambassador Cass noticed that her hands were trembling slightly, though her voice remained steady. 60 years of waiting, she said quietly. 60 years of preparing. And still, I am not sure any of us are truly ready for this. A signal came through the communication system. Not words, but music. A melody that seemed to bypass the ears entirely and speak directly to something deeper. The humans in the room closed their eyes, their faces showing emotions that Cass could not read. "They are asking permission to approach," Vasquez translated. "They want to know if it is safe, if we are ready to receive them." She took a deep breath and activated her transmitter. "Homeward, this is Earth. You are welcome here. You are welcome home." The great ship began to move. Slowly, carefully, it crossed the distance between the outer system and the blue planet that had been its destination for 12,000 years. Smaller vessels detached from its surface, shuttles that carried the first precursors to descend to the world of their children. Vasquez was among the welcoming party. She boarded a shuttle and flew up to meet the Homeward, entering through a docking port that seemed to recognize human biology. The corridors inside were warm, lit by soft light that felt like sunshine. The air smelled of growing things, of water and soil and life. She walked through halls that should have been alien but somehow felt familiar. The proportions were right. The colors were comfortable. Even the artwork on the walls, images of places and people she had never seen, stirred something in her memory. This was not a foreign place. This was a place that had been built for her ancestors, for everything she had come from. The central chamber was vast. A garden filled with plants that had not grown on any world for 12 millennia. Trees that reached toward a ceiling painted to look like a sky. Flowers that bloomed in colors she had no names for. And standing in the center of the garden, waiting for her, were the precursors. They looked almost human. Taller, thinner, with skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the light. Their eyes were larger, deeper, filled with an age that no human had ever lived to see. They wore simple clothes, white and flowing, and they stood in silence as Vasquez approached. One of them stepped forward. He was old, older than anyone she had ever met, with white hair and lines on his face that told of countless years. But his eyes were young, bright with hope and fear, and something that might have been love. "I am Elder Kale," he said. His voice was gentle, musical, speaking a language that Vasquez should not have understood, but somehow did. "I guided the Homeward through the long dark. I kept the sleepers safe while the galaxy healed." He looked at her, really looked at her, studying her face as if searching for something. "You remember," he said. It was not a question. "We remember," Vasquez replied. "We found the archives. We know who we are." Kale's eyes filled with tears. Around him, the other precursors began to weep as well. 12,000 years of sleep. 12,000 years of hoping that their children had survived. And now, at last, they had their answer. "We did not know if anyone would be waiting," Kale said. "We feared that the seeds would fail, that the worlds would be empty, that we would wake to find only silence. We are here," Vasquez said. "We survived. We grew. We remembered you, even when we forgot that we were remembering. Every story we told about ancient ones, about gods from the sky, about ancestors who watched over us, they were all about you." She reached out and took his hand. His skin was warm, alive, real. This was not a dream. This was not a legend. This was her family, returned from the dead. "But I need to show you something," she continued. "Something that may surprise you." She led Kale and his companions out of the garden, through the corridors of the Homeward to a viewing port that looked out at space. Below them, Earth turned slowly blue and white and green. But surrounding Earth was something else. A network of stations and ships and satellites, the infrastructure of a civilization that had reached beyond its cradle. "You gave us the tools to survive," Vasquez said. "The genetic memory, the instincts, the drive to explore and learn and grow. But we did not just preserve what you left us. We built on it." She called up displays showing human technology, fusion reactors that exceeded precursor designs, medical techniques that could cure diseases the ancient ones had only dreamed of solving. communication systems that spanned the solar system in an instant. In 12,000 years, we solved problems you had abandoned. We found answers to questions you stopped asking. We took the seed you planted, and we made it bloom in ways you never imagined. Kale studied the displays with wide eyes. His companions whispered to each other in their ancient language, their voices filled with amazement. "You surpassed us," Kale said finally. There was no anger in his voice, no jealousy, only wonder. In 12,000 years, you became more than we ever were. We became something different, Vasquez corrected. Not more, not less. Different. We are what you hoped we would become. We are your children, grown up. And now that you are home, we want to show you everything. She smiled at the elder, and he smiled back. It was strange to see that expression on an alien face, but it fit perfectly. Some things, it seemed, were older than species. The galaxy has changed while you slept, Vasquez said. There are others out there now. Other children, evolved on other worlds from other seeds. They are afraid of you. They do not understand what you are. They will learn, Kale said, just as we will learn about them. We did not create life to rule over it. We created life because we loved it, because we wanted it to continue after we were gone. He looked out at Earth, at the blue world that had kept his descendants safe for 12,000 years. We came home expecting to find children who needed us. Instead, we find children who have become our equals. I cannot imagine a better gift. The reunion had only begun. There would be ceremonies and celebrations, exchanges of knowledge and stories that span millennia. But in that moment, standing together and looking at the world they both called home, Elder Kale and Captain Vasquez understood something important. The family was together again, and nothing would ever separate them. Extraterrestrials named it a phantom vessel. We called it a homecoming Part 5. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. The phantom vessel had reached its destination. The precursors had returned. And humanity, the primitive species on a backwater world, was their direct descendant. The conclave did not take it well. Emergency sessions were called on 100 different worlds. Politicians and generals shouted at each other across conference tables. Religious leaders declared the news a lie, a trick, a test of faith. Scientists argued about evidence and genetics, while soldiers prepared their fleets. The Valith hegemony responded first. High Admiral Sirith, who had replaced the retired Sethrix, announced that humanity was a corruption of the sacred precursor legacy. Mongrels, she called them, impure, unworthy of the inheritance. They claimed 3 other species joined the Valith in forming a coalition. They called themselves the guardians of the true legacy. Their stated goal was simple: contain the threat. Keep the humans and their precursor allies locked in their little corner of space, where they could not spread their corruption to the rest of the galaxy. Their true goal was fear. Fear of change. Fear of losing their place in the order of things. Fear of being replaced by a species they had dismissed as primitive only weeks before. But not everyone felt this way. The Surin Council voted to send envoys to Earth. Counselor Viorin himself made the journey, bringing with him a message of friendship and hope. The Illith, the youngest species in the conclave, did the same. They looked at humanity and saw not a threat, but proof that the precursor's dream had worked. Life had survived. Intelligence had grown. The seeds had bloomed. Elder Kale watched these developments from the homeward, which had settled into orbit around Earth. He had seen this before, long ago, when the precursors had first made contact with other species. Some welcomed the connection. Others feared it. It was the nature of intelligent beings to react differently to change. He requested a broadcast channel that would reach every corner of known space. The Conclave tried to block it, but human and precursor technology working together was more than their systems could handle. His message went out to every ship, every station, every world with a receiver capable of picking it up. "I am Kale of the Homeward," he said, his image appearing on billions of screens. "I am the last elder of the people you call the Precursors. I have slept for 12,000 years, and I have woken to find a galaxy full of life." He paused, letting his words settle. "Some of you fear us. Some of you fear our children, the humans of Earth. You believe that we have returned to reclaim what was ours, to rule over you, to take back the galaxy we once inhabited." His expression softened, becoming almost sad. "We did not seed this galaxy to create servants. We seeded it to create children. All of you, every intelligent species that has evolved in the past 12 millennia, you are all our legacy. Valith and Sarn and Illith and 100 others. You grew from the foundations we laid down. You built civilizations from the tools we left behind. You are not our servants. You are our family." He gestured, and the image expanded to show Captain Vasquez standing beside him. "The humans of Earth do not claim special privilege because of their genetic connection to us. They do not ask to rule over anyone. They ask only to be treated as equals, as partners in the great work of building a future worthy of those who came before." Vasquez stepped forward to speak. "Earth does not want war," she said. "We have spent 60 years preparing for this day, and in all that time, we never built a weapon designed to destroy another intelligent species. We built ships to explore. We built stations to welcome visitors. We built a society that would make our ancestors proud." She looked directly into the broadcast pickup, as if speaking to each viewer individually. "The Conclave sees a phantom vessel and prepares for war. We see the Homeward and prepare a welcome. That is the difference between us. Not genetics, not technology, just perspective." The broadcast ended, but its effects rippled outward for weeks. On some worlds, protests erupted against the Guardian Coalition. On others, the message strengthened the resolve of those who feared change. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The Guardian fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system 30 days later. 200 warships, hastily assembled from 4 different species. They came expecting to find a primitive world defended by a single, ancient vessel. They found something else entirely. The Homeward hung in space beside Earth, surrounded by a fleet of human ships. Not the crude vessels the Conclave had first encountered, but new designs, built using combined human and precursor technology. They were beautiful and deadly, their hulls gleaming in the light of the yellow sun. High Admiral Sirith studied the defensive formation and felt doubt for the first time. "They are outnumbered," said her tactical officer. "Our fleet is larger." "The Homeward disabled 700 ships without firing a weapon," Sirith reminded him. "Do not assume that numbers will matter." She opened a communication channel. "Human vessels, this is High Admiral Sirith of the Guardian Coalition. You are harboring a threat to galactic security. Stand aside and allow us to neutralize the precursor ship, or we will be forced to treat you as enemies." The response came from Captain Vasquez. "Admiral Sirith, the Homeward is not a threat to anyone. It is a refugee vessel, carrying the last survivors of a civilization that sacrificed everything to give life a chance to grow. We will not allow you to destroy it. Then you choose war." "No," Vasquez said. "We choose defense." "There's a difference. You came here to attack. We are simply refusing to die." Sirith gave the order to advance. Her fleet moved forward, weapons charging, targeting systems locking onto the combined human and precursor formation. The Homeward activated. It did not fire weapons. It did not unleash destruction. Instead, it did exactly what it had done before, what it had done to the first Conclave fleet. A wave of energy spread outward, passing through every Guardian ship like a gentle breeze. Engines locked. Weapons fused. Communications scrambled. 200 warships hung dead in space, their crews helpless but unharmed. Elder Kale's voice echoed through every Guardian ship. We came home to find our children. All of our children. We will not let fear and hatred destroy what we worked so long to create. Your crews are safe. Your lives are not in danger. But you will not harm anyone today. The Guardian fleet was escorted out of the system by human ships. Their vessels were repaired gradually over the following weeks, their crews treated with dignity and respect. Some of them returned home with stories of human kindness, stories that spread despite the efforts of their governments to suppress them. The coalition fractured within a year. The Valeth hegemony tried to maintain its isolation, but the other members drifted away, drawn by the promise of trade and knowledge exchange with Earth and its precursor allies. The galaxy was changing, and those who refused to change with it found themselves increasingly alone. On the first anniversary of the Homeward's arrival, a ceremony was held in orbit around Earth. Representatives from 20 different species attended, including several former members of the Guardian Coalition. They came to witness the unveiling of a new symbol, one that would mark a new era in galactic history. It was simple, a spiral of human DNA intertwined with the precursor glyph for home. It represented unity across time and space, the connection between ancestors and descendants, the bond that tied every intelligent species in the galaxy to a common origin. Elder Kale and Captain Vasquez stood together at the ceremony, looking out at the gathered ships, the gathered peoples, the gathered hopes of a galaxy learning to see itself as one family. We called our ship Homeward because we believed we were returning to our children, Kale said quietly. We were right, but we did not expect to find so many of them. Vasquez smiled. Home is not a place. It is the people waiting for you when you arrive. The old precursor nodded slowly, his ancient eyes reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. Then we are finally home, he said. All of us. The ceremony ended with music, songs that blended human melodies with precursor harmonies, with Saran rhythms and Illith counterpoints. It was imperfect and beautiful, the sound of a family learning to sing together for the first time. And across the galaxy, on worlds that had once feared the phantom vessel, people listened and began to understand. They were not alone. They had never been alone. They were all part of something larger, something older, something that stretched back 12,000 years and forward into a future without limit. They were home.